Seeds of gratitude. The universe had a way of placing people exactly where they needed to be, even when that place seemed like the worst possible location. For Captain Therix of the Valkyrie research vessel Luminous Path, that place was the edge of a quantum anomaly that twisted spacetime into configurations that defied his species' considerable understanding of physics. "Captain, I'm detecting something," his science officer, Prelon, announced, her crystalline vocal cords creating harmonics of concern. "There's a vessel caught in the anomaly's tidal forces." "Captain, it's a human ship." Therix felt his photoreceptors dim with worry. Humans. The galaxy had only known about them for 30 standard cycles, and already their reputation preceded them, curious, reckless, seemingly driven by an insatiable need to touch every star they could reach. This particular human ship appeared to have reached too far. Life signs? Therix asked, though he already knew the answer would complicate everything. 12. All failing. Radiation exposure from the anomaly is catastrophic. Preland's colors shifted to deep violet, the Valkyrie expression of profound sadness. They have perhaps 2 standard hours. Maybe less. The bridge fell silent. Every member of Therix's crew understood the mathematics of the situation. The Luminous Path was a research vessel, not a rescue ship. Its shields were designed for solar winds and micrometeorite impacts, not the reality-warping forces of a quantum anomaly. To venture close enough to retrieve the humans would risk all 47 Valkyrie aboard. "Bring us alongside," Therix said quietly. "Captain," his first officer began. "I said bring us alongside." Therix's voice carried the harmonic of absolute command. "We are Valkyrie. We do not leave sentient beings to die when we have the capacity to save them, regardless of the risk." The next 3 hours became a crucible that tested everything the Valkyrie believed about themselves. The Luminous Path edged toward the dying human vessel with agonizing slowness, its hull groaning under gravitational stresses it was never designed to endure. Therix watched his shield integrity drop from 98% to 43%, then to 21%. Alarms screamed across every station. When they finally established a docking connection, the human ship, designated Pathfinder's Dream, was a tomb waiting to close. Therix led the boarding party himself, stepping through the airlock into a corridor filled with the acrid smell of burning electronics and something else, the scent of dying humans which he would never forget. They found the humans scattered across the ship. Some had collapsed at their stations, still clutching controls in desperate final attempts to save their vessel. Others had made it to what appeared to be a medical bay, lying in neat rows as if they'd accepted their fate with dignity. "This one is still conscious," Prelon called from the bridge area. Therix hurried forward and found a human female, her skin covered in radiation burns, her eyes, those strange forward-facing predator eyes, still alert despite her body's systematic failure. Her uniform identified her as Commander Elizabeth Chen. "You came," she whispered in heavily accented but understandable Galactic standard. "Why would you risk yourselves?" "Because it was right," Therix replied simply. "Can you move?" "My crew first. Please. My crew first." Over the next 40 minutes, the Valkyrie medical team performed miracles. Their species had evolved on a high-gravity world with different biochemistry, but medicine was medicine and pain was universal. They stabilized the humans one by one, adapting their own medical technology in real time, making educated guesses about physiology they'd only studied theoretically. Commander Chin refused treatment until all 11 of her crew had been moved to the Luminous Path's medical bay. Only then did she allow herself to collapse. Therix caught her, surprised by how heavy humans were despite their relatively compact frames. "We'll get you home," he promised. "All of you." The escape from the anomaly nearly destroyed both ships. The Luminous Path pulled away with its shields at 4%, hull breaches on 3 decks, and its primary drive operating at barely 30% capacity. But they made it. By the time they reached the nearest neutral station, all 12 humans were stable, though their recovery would take months. Commander Chin insisted on speaking with Therix before being transferred to human medical facilities. She'd learned enough Valkyrie during her recovery to speak a few phrases, which she attempted with endearing clumsiness. "My people have a saying, Captain," she told him, her hand clasped around his crystalline appendage in the human gesture of friendship. "We never forget those who stand with us in our darkest hours. You saved 12 lives today, but you've done something more important. You've shown us what honor looks like among the stars." She pulled a small blade from her uniform. Later, Therix would learn this was called a knife and was ceremonial. With deliberate care, she pricked her palm, letting blood well up. "This is a blood oath practiced by my ancestors on Earth. I, Commander Elizabeth Chen of the Terran Exploration Corps, do swear that humanity will remember the Valkyrie. If ever you need us, we will come. We will stand with you against any darkness. This I swear on my blood, on my honor, and on the lives you've saved today. Therix didn't fully understand the ritual, but he understood the weight of her words. He recorded everything as was Valkyrie custom, preserving this moment in crystalline memory storage. I hope our people never face darkness that requires such aid, he replied gently. But if we do, I will remember your words, Commander Chin. They parted as friends, two species who'd barely known each other before chance and catastrophe forced them together. The luminous path returned to its research mission. Commander Chin and her crew returned to human space, where they told stories about the luminous beings who'd risked everything to save them. 40 standard cycles passed. Commander Chin retired, grew old, had children and grandchildren. She never forgot Captain Therix, kept his image on her mantle, told anyone who would listen about the day the Valkyrie proved that heroism transcended species. Captain Therix eventually retired as well, turning command of the luminous path over to his daughter, Solara. He told her the story of the humans many times, showed her the recordings, explained the strange blood oath and the promise that had been made. Do you think they remember, Father? Young Solara had asked. I believe they do, Therix replied. But more importantly, I hope they never need to prove it. The universe, as always, had different plans. 40 years after the rescue, Captain Solara Therix stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie defense vessel Stellar Harmony, watching her homeworld burn. The Krellic swarm had arrived without warning 3 days earlier, a massive fleet of bioorganic warships that moved through space like a plague of locusts. They didn't communicate, didn't negotiate, didn't accept surrender. They simply consumed. Worlds, resources, populations. Everything was fuel for their endless expansion. Valkyr's defenses had been pathetic against such ferocity. The Valkyrie were scientists, philosophers, artists. They maintained a defense fleet only because galactic citizenship required it, and even then, their ships were designed more for deterrence than actual combat. Against the Krellics, deterrence meant nothing. Status report, Solara commanded, though she already knew the answer would be grim. Orbital defense platforms 3 and 7 are gone. Platform 1 is at 15% capacity. Ground-based shields are failing across the northern continent. Her tactical officer, Virilon, couldn't hide the despair in his harmonic tones. Captain, we have perhaps 18 standard hours before the Krellics breach our atmosphere. After that. He didn't need to finish. After that, 6 billion Valkyrie would die. Their civilization, 30,000 years old, would become nothing but biomass for the swarm. What about the Galactic Council? Solara asked, though she already knew this answer too. They've declared this a regional conflict, and invoked the non-interference doctrine. No council member is willing to commit forces. Verilyn's colors shifted to bitter orange. We're alone, Captain. Solara felt something inside her crack. She'd known this might happen. The Galactic Council was famous for its bureaucracy, its endless debates, its carefully calculated cowardice. But knowing and experiencing were different things. She returned to her ready room, sat in the meditation alcove her father had installed, and tried to center herself. Her eyes fell on the small display shelf where she kept her father's most precious memories, crystalline data cores containing his life's work and most important moments. One core pulsed gently, the recording of the human rescue 40 years past. Solara picked it up, let the memories flow through her photoreceptors. She watched her father risk everything for 12 aliens his species barely knew. Watched Commander Chen make her blood oath, promising that humanity would remember, would come if the Valkyrie ever needed them. It was madness. 40 years was a long time. The humans who'd been saved were probably dead or scattered. Why would an entire species honor the promise of one dying commander? Why would they risk themselves for aliens they'd never met? But what other choice did she have? Solara accessed the deep communication array, configured it for long-range transmission toward human space, and began composing a message. She included everything: her father's recordings, the historical data on the rescue, current tactical information about the Krellics threat, and finally, her own words. This is Captain Solara Therix of the Valkyrie Defense Fleet to any human vessels or authorities receiving this transmission. 40 years ago, my father, Captain Therix of the Luminous Path, saved 12 humans from certain death. One of those humans, Commander Elizabeth Chin, made a promise that humanity would remember the Valkyrie, that you would stand with us if we ever face darkness. That darkness is here. We are dying. Our world has perhaps 18 hours before extinction. The galaxy has abandoned us to our fate. I do not expect you to honor a promise made 4 decades ago by one of your people to one of mine. I do not expect you to risk yourselves for aliens you've never met. But I have nowhere else to turn. If Commander Chen's words meant anything, if humanity truly remembers its friends, then please, help us. We saved 12 of you. I'm not asking you to save 12 of us. I'm asking you to save our entire species. She paused, then added one final line, her voice breaking with harmonics of desperation. Humanity, we need you. Solara transmitted the message, watched it lance out into the void at faster-than-light speeds, carrying the last hope of her people. She didn't truly believe anyone would answer. Promises made in gratitude rarely survive the cold mathematics of interstellar politics. She returned to the bridge, to the hopeless battle, to watching her civilization slowly die. And deep in human space, 63 light-years away, a message arrived that would shake the Terran Republic to its core. The awakening giant. Admiral Marcus Chen was reviewing fleet deployment reports when his communications officer interrupted with unusual urgency. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from an unknown source. Sir, it's addressed to you personally. And to Commander Elizabeth Chen. Marcus felt his heart skip. His mother's name, her rank from 40 years ago. Route it to my ready room. Immediately. He sealed the door behind him and activated the message. What he saw made his breath catch. A Valkyrie, he recognized the species from his mother's stories, appeared in holographic form, her crystalline features showing colors that even his untrained eyes recognized as distress. Marcus listened to the entire message twice, then a third time. By the fourth viewing, he wasn't seeing the hologram anymore. He was seeing his mother's face as she told him bedtime stories about the luminous beings who'd saved her life, who'd risked everything for strangers. Computer, get me a real-time connection to Elizabeth Chen on Mars. Personal encryption. Now. The wait was agonizing. When his mother's face finally appeared, aged but still sharp-eyed at 79, Marcus saw her smile fade as she read his expression. Marcus? What's wrong? Mom, do you remember Captain Therix? The Valkyrie who saved your life. Elizabeth's eyes widened. Every day of my life, son. Why? Marcus forwarded the message. He watched his mother's face as she viewed it, saw tears begin streaming down her weathered cheeks. When it finished, Elizabeth was silent for a long moment. They're dying, she finally whispered. Marcus, the Valkyrie are dying, and they remembered. After 40 years, they remembered the promise I made. Mom, you were delirious from radiation poisoning. You made a promise you had no authority to make, speaking for a species of 40 billion people. I made a promise that any human would make. Elizabeth's voice cracked with intensity. Those beings risked everything to save 12 of us. They didn't know us anything, but they came anyway because it was right. And now they're dying, and the galaxy has abandoned them. Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. I'm an admiral, not a politician. I can't commit the entire Terran Republic to a war without authorization. The process could take weeks. They have 18 hours, Marcus. I know. If we don't help them, what does that make us? Marcus closed his eyes. He'd joined the military because of his mother's stories, because she'd raised him to believe that humanity could be better than its violent past, that they could be the species that stood up when others fell. Now reality was testing that belief. There might be a way, he said slowly. Protocol 77. The Debt of Honor Protocol. Elizabeth leaned forward. I've never heard of it. It was established 60 years ago, after the betrayal of Proxima, when political cowardice cost us allies. It allows any member of the Terran Republic military to volunteer for rescue operations without requiring command authorization. It's never been used on this scale, but technically, you could ask them to volunteer, Elizabeth finished. All of them. It would end my career if they don't respond. I'd be the admiral who tried to start an unauthorized war. Marcus laughed bitterly. But if I do nothing, I'd be the admiral who let heroes die because of paperwork. What do you need from me? Marcus felt love for his mother wash over him. Even at 79, dying slowly from the long-term effects of that radiation exposure 4 decades past, she was ready to fight. Your testimony. The medical records. Everything that proves what the Valkyrie did. If I'm going to ask people to risk their lives, they need to understand why. Over the next hour, Marcus and Elizabeth compiled everything. The original logs from the Pathfinder's dream, medical scans showing how close all 12 humans had come to death, testimony from the other survivors, and Elizabeth's own detailed account of the rescue. Marcus added tactical data about the Krellick swarm, pulled from intelligence reports. They were as bad as Captain Solara had described, a consuming force that had annihilated 17 civilizations in the past century. Finally, Marcus composed his message. He addressed it to every ship in the Terran Republic Navy, every captain in the Merchant Marine, every private vessel with a faster-than-light drive. Thousands of ships, scattered across 100 systems. This is Admiral Marcus Chin of the Third Fleet. I'm about to tell you a story about 12 humans and the aliens who saved them. He recounted everything, the rescue, the blood oath, the promise his mother had made. He showed them the medical evidence, let them see how close humanity had come to losing 12 explorers. Then he showed them Captain Solara's message, let them hear the desperation of a species facing extinction. The Valkyries saved 12 of us when they had every reason to leave us to die. Now they need all of us. I cannot order you to help. I don't have that authority, and even if I did, this isn't the kind of mission that can be commanded. This requires something more than duty. It requires honor. Under Protocol 77, I am formally volunteering the Third Fleet to render aid to the Valkyrie people. Any captain who wishes to join me may do so without fear of court-martial or career consequences. But I need to know now. The Valkyrie have hours, not days. My mother, Commander Elizabeth Chin, made a promise 40 years ago that humanity would remember the Valkyrie, that we would stand with them if they ever needed us. I intend to honor that promise. The question I'm asking every one of you is simple. Who stands with me? Marcus transmitted the message, then sat back in his chair. His hands were shaking. He'd just potentially destroyed his career, fractured the chain of command, and asked thousands of people to risk their lives for aliens most of them had never heard of. His communications console lit up within 30 seconds. Admiral Chin, this is Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer Relentless. I stand with you. Changing course for Valkyrie space. Rodriguez out. Then another. And another. Admiral, Captain Okonkwo of the cargo hauler Stellar Merchant. I'm dumping my cargo to increase speed. I stand with you. Admiral Chin, this is Captain Takahashi of the research vessel Discovery. We're not a warship, but we've got plasma cutters that'll work as weapons. We're coming. The acknowledgements flooded in faster than Marcus could read them. His console showed a tactical map of human space, and he watched in awe as ship icons across dozens of systems changed course, all converging on a single point, Velker. Warships of the Terran Navy. Cargo haulers. Mining vessels. Colony defense boats. Private yachts. Even a luxury cruise liner whose captain announced she was evacuating her passengers at the nearest station and joining the fleet. Within an hour, 847 ships had volunteered. The largest volunteer armada in human history, assembled not by command but by conscience. Marcus's communications officer burst into his ready room, his young face alight with excitement. Admiral, you need to see this. The entire galactic network is going crazy. Other species are watching humans mobilize and they can't understand why. The Galactic Council is demanding we stand down, threatening sanctions. Tell the Galactic Council, Marcus said quietly, that humanity remembers its friends. And tell them to get out of our way. He opened a channel to all volunteer ships. All vessels, this is Admiral Chin. Plot course for the Valkyrie system, maximum speed. We're not going there to negotiate or observe. We're going there to fight. The Krellic swarm has never faced humanity before. Let's show them what happens when they threaten our friends. 847 different captains from 100 different worlds, representing every branch of human civilization, responded with a single unified declaration. For the Valkyrie. The armada jumped to faster-than-light speeds, racing across 63 light-years to reach a species most of them had never met, to honor a promise most of them hadn't known existed, to prove that some debts transcend time, politics, and the cold logic of survival. Behind them, the galaxy watched in confusion and growing unease. Other species had seen humans fight before, they were formidable warriors when threatened. But this was different. This was humanity choosing to fight for someone else, risking everything for aliens who'd saved just 12 of them decades ago. On Mars, Elizabeth Chen watched the fleet depart on her holographic display, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she whispered to the stars. Thank you for proving that my promise meant something. And in Valkyrie space, as her world burned around her, Captain Solara Therix received a response to her desperate message. A simple transmission from Admiral Marcus Chen. Captain Therix, this is humanity. We remember. We're coming. Hold on. For the first time in 3 days, Solara felt something she'd thought was lost forever. Hope. Fire and faith. The sensors on the Stellar Harmony screamed warnings that Solara initially dismissed as malfunctions. There couldn't be 847 ships incoming at maximum FTL speeds. It was impossible. No species in the galaxy could mobilize that many vessels in under 10 hours. Captain, we're being hailed by the lead ship. It's human. Verulin's colors shifted rapidly through the spectrum, unable to settle on any single emotion. On screen, Solara commanded, her own photoreceptors blazing with intensity. The human male who appeared was older than Commander Chen had been in her father's recordings, but Solara saw the same determination in his eyes. Those strange, forward-facing predator eyes that could look at something with such focus, such intensity. Captain Therix, I'm Admiral Marcus Chen. My mother was Commander Elizabeth Chen. She told me to tell you that humanity never forgets its friends. He smiled, and Solara realized humans showed their teeth when they were happy, not threatening. We've brought 847 ships. We're here to stand with you. Solara felt her structural integrity wavering, the Valkyrie equivalent of overwhelming emotion. Admiral Chen, you came. You actually came. I didn't think. I didn't believe. We came, Marcus said simply. Now let's save your world. Transmit all tactical data on the Krellix positions. We're going in. The human fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Valkyrie system, and even the Krellix swarm paused its assault. Their biosensors had never encountered such a massive response to one of their raids. Most species fought defensively, trying to protect their worlds while hoping the swarm would eventually lose interest and move on. These humans were different. They weren't defending, they were attacking. Marcus broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring both the Valkyrie and the Krellix could hear. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran Republic. The Valkyrie are under our protection. You have one opportunity to withdraw. If you do not, we will show you why humanity earned its reputation during the Unification Wars. The Krellix responded by launching a bioplasma volley at the nearest human ships, their way of rejecting the ultimatum. All ships, Marcus said calmly, weapons free. Show them our gratitude. What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human tactics were built on 3 centuries of nearly constant warfare, first among themselves, then against early alien threats, then in the brutal unification wars that had finally brought all human colonies under one banner. They didn't fight like other species. They fought like they'd been born to it. The Terran Navy warships demonstrated why humanity was considered one of the premier military powers in the galaxy. Their weapons were precise and devastating, their tactics aggressive to the point of recklessness. They didn't maintain safe distances. They closed with the Krellix bioships and tore them apart at point-blank range. But what shocked the Valkyrie most was the civilian vessels. The cargo hauler Stellar Merchant accelerated directly toward a Krellix heavy destroyer, its captain broadcasting an old human war cry. Remember the Alamo. The hauler rammed the destroyer at full thrust, both ships disappearing in a massive explosion. A mining vessel, the Deep Core, used its industrial plasma cutters to slice through a cluster of Krellix fighters, its captain calmly narrating each kill as if he were cutting asteroids instead of enemy ships. The luxury liner Celestial Dreams, now evacuated of passengers, positioned itself between a Krellix assault group and a Valkyrie hospital ship, absorbing devastating fire while its skeleton crew kept the shields operational through sheer stubbornness. Solara watched in awe and horror. They're dying for us, she whispered. These civilians are dying for people they've never met. That's what humans do, her communications officer said, listening to the human battle chatter. I'm monitoring their transmissions, Captain. They're not talking about duty or orders. They're talking about Commander Chen, about the promise, about honoring a debt. They're dying for gratitude. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Krellix swarm had never faced resistance like this. Every time they destroyed a human ship, 3 more took its place. The humans coordinated their attacks with a precision that suggested they'd fought together for years, even though most of these vessels had never operated in the same fleet before. But precision wasn't their greatest weapon. Determination was. When the Krellix finally broke through the outer defense line and made a push for the Valkyrie homeworld, Marcus made a decision that would be debated by military historians for generations. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. The Krellix mothership is targeting Velker directly. Its weapon will penetrate the planetary shields. We need to stop it now. Admiral, our weapons can't penetrate that ship's organic armor, his tactical officer reported. It's too massive, too well defended. Marcus looked at his crew, young men and women who'd volunteered to be here, who'd understood they might not go home. Then we use the oldest weapon humanity has. We use ourselves. He opened a fleet-wide channel. I need volunteers for a kamikaze run on the Krellix mothership. 12 ships. One for each human the Valkyrie saved 40 years ago. The response was immediate. 47 captains volunteered in the first 10 seconds. Marcus selected 12, including his own flagship. It's been an honor serving with all of you. Tell humanity's story. Tell them why we did this. Admiral, no. Solara's voice cut across the channel. You can't sacrifice yourself for us. We're not worth. Captain Therix, Marcus interrupted gently, 40 years ago, your father decided that 12 humans he'd never met were worth risking 47 Valkyrie. He was right then. We're right now. This is what honor looks like. The 12 human ships broke formation, accelerating toward the Krellick's mothership. The massive biovessel's defenses tore into them, destroying 3 before they'd covered half the distance. The remaining 9 kept coming, their captains broadcasting final messages home, telling loved ones they'd done something that mattered. Solara watched in horror as the ships closed on the mothership. At the last moment, just before impact, she saw something that would haunt her forever. The human vessels adjusted their approach vectors so they struck in a pattern, a perfect circle around the mothership's primary weapon system. The explosions cascaded through the bioship structure. The mothership shuddered, its weapon system failing, its organic armor rupturing. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull as critical systems failed. And then, for the first time in recorded history, the Krellick swarm retreated. The massive biofleet disengaged, pulling back from Valkyrie space with a speed that suggested they'd encountered something that fundamentally terrified them. They'd faced superior weapons before, superior numbers occasionally. But they'd never faced an enemy willing to die, not for survival but for someone else. The remaining human ships didn't pursue. They held position, maintaining defensive perimeter around Velker until the last Krellick's vessel jumped away. Silence fell across the battlefield, broken only by damage reports and casualty counts. 23 human ships destroyed. 412 damaged. Over 6,000 humans dead. For a species they'd met once 40 years ago, when 12 of them needed help. Solara's communications console lit up with an incoming transmission. She accepted it with shaking appendages. Admiral Marcus Chen was gone. His flagship had been one of the 12. Instead, she saw an elderly human female in a medical bed on Mars, hooked to life support systems, her face worn but her eyes bright with tears. Captain Therix, Elizabeth Chen said softly, my son told me, that you doubted whether humanity would remember. I want you to know that I have thought of your father every day for 40 years. I have told his story to everyone who would listen. And when my son said he was going to honor my promise, I was so proud I could barely breathe. Commander Chen, Solara struggled to form words in Galactic Standard. Your son? So many humans, they died for us. They died for what we believe, Elizabeth corrected gently. They died proving that kindness is never wasted, that debts of honor matter, that some things are worth more than survival. My son knew that. Every captain who volunteered knew that. I don't understand, Solara whispered. We saved 12 of you. You lost thousands for us. The mathematics don't balance. Elizabeth smiled, and Solara saw where Marcus had learned his expression. Child, you're thinking about this wrong. 40 years ago, your father showed 12 humans that the universe contained beings who would risk everything to do what was right. That changed us. That gave us hope that we could be better than our violent history. Today, thousands of humans showed the entire galaxy the same thing. The debt isn't balanced, it's multiplied. That's how honor works. The transmission continued for another hour. Elizabeth Chen, knowing she had perhaps days left to live, insisted on speaking to as many Valkyrie as possible. She told them stories about Admiral Marcus Chen, about the other captains who'd fallen, about the promise she'd made and why it had mattered. When the call finally ended, Solara sat in silence on her bridge. Around her, the crew processed what they'd witnessed, an entire species that had mobilized in hours to save them, that had fought with a ferocity the galaxy had never seen, that had sacrificed thousands to honor a 40-year-old debt. What do we do now? Virilon asked quietly. Solara looked at the sensor display showing the debris field where human ships had died protecting her world. We remember. We tell this story until the stars burn out. We make sure the galaxy knows what humanity did here today. And then, Solara said, her colors shifting to determined violet blue, we figure out how to be worthy of such friendship. 3 months later, on the Valkyrie homeworld, they dedicated a memorial. It was built in the traditional Valkyrie style, a crystal tower that captured and refracted light, creating rainbows that could be seen from orbit. Inscribed on every surface were names: Admiral Marcus Chen and the 6,247 humans who died defending a species most of them had never met. At the base of the tower, in Galactic Standard Valkyrie script and English, was a single phrase chosen by Captain Solara Therix. When 12 became countless, humanity's answer to our darkest hour. May we be worthy of such friends. The dedication ceremony was attended by representatives from across the galaxy, including several Galactic Council members who'd refused to help during the crisis. They watched as Solara unveiled a secondary memorial, a statue showing Captain Therix and Commander Elizabeth Chen clasping hands across the stars. In her speech, Solara spoke directly to the assembled species. For 40 years, I have heard my father's stories about the humans he saved. I thought they were just stories, uplifting tales about momentary gratitude. I was wrong. Today, humanity showed us what they truly are. They are a species who remembers, who honors their debts, who will cross the galaxy to stand with their friends. Other species have asked me why humans did this. They want to understand the tactical advantage, the political calculation, the strategic benefit of saving the Valkyrie. There wasn't one. Humanity saved us because 40 years ago we saved 12 of them. It's that simple and that profound. The Galactic Council teaches us to be pragmatic, to calculate costs and benefits, to act only when action serves our interests. Humanity has taught us something different. They've taught us that kindness is not a weakness to be exploited but a strength to be honored. They've taught us that debts of gratitude are the strongest bonds in the universe. She paused, her photoreceptors sweeping across the assembled crowd. The humans have a phrase, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Today the Valkyrie stand on the shoulders of humanity, and we see a universe that could be better than it is. A universe where species help each other not because they must, but because it's right. A universe where promises made in gratitude are promises kept through fire. Humanity, if you're listening, and I know you are, thank you. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing us and the entire galaxy what we can be. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence, 6,247 seconds of it, one for each human lost. Solara stood at the base of the memorial, her colors shifting through the full spectrum of Valkyrie emotion, and made her own promise. We will remember, she whispered. And if humanity ever needs us, we will come. All of us. No matter the cost. Behind her, 6 billion Valkyrie echoed her words, their voices creating a harmonic that resonated through the crystal memorial and out into the cosmos. A promise that would endure as long as either species drew breath. On Earth, in a small home on Mars, Elizabeth Chen watched the ceremony on her holographic display. She was alone now, her son gone, her own life measured in days. But she smiled, tears streaming down her weathered face. You were right, Captain Therix, she whispered to the stars. Kindness is never wasted. She closed her eyes, content in the knowledge that her promise, made in desperation 40 years ago, had become something greater. It had become humanity's promise. It had become proof that the universe, despite its darkness, still contained light. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, 824 human ships, the survivors of the largest volunteer armada ever assembled, turned for home, knowing they'd done something that would echo through history. They'd proven that humanity never forgets its friends.